I'm being so lazy, so absolutely lazy, and it's really because I'm on vocal rest, and I need to stop being lazy and stop making excuses. Just because I'm on vocal rest doesn't mean that I cannot compose. So today I'm going to compose. It's 6:04 in the morning. 6:04 in the morning. I have to compose. And I've been avoiding composing because I don't think that I have anything to offer that is novel. And whenever I don't have anything that I think is new, it causes me issues. I just remembered my computer does not have a good sound. This is gonna be a disaster. Because there's no speakers coming out of this thing. I just realized I did not set up my speakers, and my wireless speakers, both of them are in the car, and I'm too lazy, it's too cold to go outside. So I'm going to make do. It's going to sound really bad because this computer is like nearly a decade old. Probably is a decade old. It's right about a decade old. Okay, let's see how it sounds because it's probably just really bad. Oh, that's really bad. It's not even... Okay, that's not even going to work. Oh, that's really bad. Okay, you know what? Given how bad it is, I'm really gonna have to set this up. I'm gonna have to set it up. Okay, so I'm gonna go find my wired speakers, which probably aren't working very well either. Oh. These are fairly bunk speakers. Fairly bunk speakers, and I'm gonna put it on the same network as my UPS. Okay, it's going to, let's see. Okay, these are like the junkiest Alesis. The junkiest Alesis. Okay, I'm gonna put it somewhere where it's going to get electricity, which is kind of far away here. Let's see. I'm entirely at the mercy of my technology and my health. It's my vocal health and it's the technology. I'm going to be on vocal rest for at least 6 weeks because it's so gritty and it's so bad right now. Superbly bad. Like complete disaster. Absolute complete disaster. Just to tell you how bad the situation is, I just pulled my refrigerator power to power this. We won't say why. It's a bad situation here. Now, oh, not so bad. This is not so bad anymore here. Okay, let's turn this on. Let's make sure both speakers are connected, and I don't think they are, but it doesn't matter here. Okay, now I'm back. Not had any coffee, I've not had any tea, I've not had breakfast, not had water. Okay, so here. always get frustrated because things don't come to me naturally all the time. And then I go back to just any well-renowned classical composers and study their pieces. It's like, oh, you know what? Like 90% of it isn't good, even. It's like 90% of it is just like, oh, I'm just going through the motions. It's like taking a shower. I'm just going through the motions. And so it's I need to just understand that's just how things are. Okay? And by the time things actually get, you know, published for the composers, that's, you know, already like they've already weeded out the worst. And so then you end up with maybe not even, I would say not even like 1% of it is actually known, and the rest of it is just like considered junk. Nobody listens to it, it sounds mundane, nobody ought to listen to it, and that's how it is. You ought to study it, but you know, you didn't need to keep it in the anthologies. Really, very few pieces make it to the anthologies. And so, here we are. How do we make stuff that sounds pretty good all the time, right? And this is where I am struggling, like anybody else I think is struggling. It's struggling to be creative and yet not fall over the edge. Oh, something fell over the edge. Not fall over the edge of like acceptability. So this is it in, you know, if you venture too far, then you're like, you know, noise. So it's a balancing act. And I usually just compose, I'll start with like an instrument that is really just mundane, some sort of piano, just like vintage electric piano. We'll start with. Okay, and it just sounds like this. So what I hear is da 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 da. But see, here's the thing, you cannot just, you know, like grab things out of thin air like I just did, right? Because there are lots of days where you cannot do that. And so that I devised this strategy, okay, of creating your own scale. So essentially, the scale is used for the entire duration of the piece, and you're not allowed to deviate from the scale. So the scale will be some sort of hybrid, morphed standard scale, right? So we have something like, right, some sort of, if you think about it, this sounds very Occidental. It sounds Asian. It sounds like something from like the Asiatic regions, okay? And that's something you want to keep out of any type of popular composition because it just sounds too off for Western pop music. Okay? So then it's a pentatonic scale, but it's still got that Occidental kind of tinge to it, and I call it modal, like somehow it's in, you know, like this, you know how like modes go, okay, well here, and they call that a scale. It's like, okay, well, you know what, I don't think so. And so when I structure scale for composition, I say, okay, you know what? I'm gonna make it sound good. Meaning the scale is gonna have to sound good. So if I say it's so basically if you say, if you go, okay, so we'll start with this. This is really like, you know, bright and early in the morning. It's not, the sun's not out, but just like, so C, E, F, G, B flat, C, B flat, G, F, E, C. Okay, it's not a standard scale, nor is it a pentatonic scale, nor is it a blues scale, because it's skipping certain notes, okay? So, but, because I'm gonna forget, I'm gonna write it down somewhere. It's like, when I'm creatively minded, okay, when I'm in the mode of creation, I don't remember things. So we have C, E, F, G, B flat, C. Okay? Okay, something like stop. Do you see? So then what kind of piece would it have to be? It would have to be really like upbeat, right? So what chords are these? Right? So yes, there's a seventh chord in there, okay? But the scale is what if we change it to C flat, E flat? So here, we'll put E flat as a consideration as a deviant note, okay, in this scale. Because when we modulate, we can modulate to something sort of just a little bit different, right? So here, that sounds a little bit native, you know? I'll put an F sharp in there. So E flat, okay, the next consideration is F sharp, okay? So I'm building out the scale that I want, okay? And it'll be like, here's the core of the piece. I'm going to make some sort of development, right? It's going to modulate into some sort of other twist of the original chord or original scale that I built, okay? And here's the other thing. Rhythm is so important when it comes to okay? But here just had a running line of just dot 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 8 notes just running like dot 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 dot, just C's. Okay, and it works, right? Sometimes it works. Sometimes a continuo that is really just a classic continuo works, but then like as you have layout to the piece, right? You need the continuo, but then you need to add some sort of spin on it, like some sort of bass line that breaks it up. Meaning, when you have a long continuo, you want something to distract, and then so you have to add some sort of element to it. Some sort of distraction. Okay. And I didn't like the running bass lines that I wrote because they're typical, they're standard. So, but the thing is, like, the novel bass lines that come kind of has to come out of thin air in a way. Okay, because you have your notes that you want to use for the piece, but at the same time, once you lay out to the piece, something's going to have to fit, meaning it's going to be a customized solution essentially. It's not going to be, you know, just, oh, here's just, you know, something standard. It's not going to be standard. Anything that's like, oh, that's so tricky, that's fantastic, anything that you think that way of is not going to be standard. It's not something that you can pull out of, you know, some other like repository of standard scales and standard snippets, right? It's not something that you can get out of a loop. It's something that says, okay, here's like how things are. I'm going to kind of customize and just wiggle through this sort of and maneuver. So then it's a customized thing that just sounds perfect within the environment that you laid out already. Okay, so how would I start? And see, I'm not liking this because I work a lot with like just those kind of these types of scales, like in these types of like slightly modal scales, which are like, it sounds a little bit more like native. I work in those scales a lot. I no longer think that it is the use of that interspersed with like your classic, you know, scales and chords. I no longer think it's fresh to my ears. And so I kind of wanted to do something else, and then I did something that was like more jazzy, and even that's just kind of like, it kind of wore off, and I was just like, you know what, I don't know what to go from here. And that was the reason why I started, you know, voice training. I was like, oh, let's sing some Puccini. And you know, you study opera, and when you study opera you say, oh, you know what, these are the absolute roots and foundations of what we have today. And it really is complicated, and it goes far beyond what, you know, people do today. But at the same time, the thing about popular music is that it's the simplicity and it's the concertedness. I say concertedness meaning it saves. It doesn't give you any fluff, and it doesn't have any room for you to mess around. Because people are listening, it has to be so clean, and everything has to be so compact, and you cannot. So the game of popular music is that you cannot offend the ears. Okay, everything has to strike the heart in some sort of way. The heart, the senses, the feelings, everything has to strike that in some sort of way. If it doesn't jive with the person who's listening to it, then it's worthless. And that's what pop music is about. It's, you have to feel something. You have to make people feel something. And it's not, people aren't patient today. They're not going to listen through an opera for 2 hours, right? People have like ADHD, they have very short attention spans, so you have to immediately engage them. So if the introduction isn't just really snappy or just really like in some way tugs at the heartstrings, people just tune out. They don't even listen to it. They go, okay, next, there's plenty of pieces out there. If it's not some sort of like, oh, this is a fresh beat, people just try it right off and they're just like, oh, you know what, this sounds just kind of not, you know, it just doesn't sound like something I want to listen to, essentially. It's you know, we live in this disposable society, which is fine for creation because, you know, when you're creating pieces, we're composing, you have some sort of, you know, responsibility, I suppose, to just make things sound good. I know it sounds really like, you know, just, it sounds kind of like, oh, well, that's just wasted words. But at the same time, you know, it is what it is. It's, people don't want to sit around listening to something that doesn't really resonate with their neurology, right? So it's their feelings, it's emotions. And for whatever I just did, I just didn't think, I guess I just don't particularly like this, but I do. So something like that sounds a little bit cartoonish. I kind of like that. You see, I just completely like did what I just said I wasn't going to do, which is to grab things out of it. Okay, so I go record. So we want to compose in 8 measures, obviously, right? So, and that's pretty much 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. Okay, so we have 8, right? And what I need to do is just copy and paste it. And what I do is I record a snippet once I feel like, you know, something resonates with my emotions, I guess. Oh, what am I doing? Yeah, so I'm quantizing these notes, which means I'm setting them so that the rhythm is really strict, and then I will play with it, and I will layer it. So I have so I hear things, meaning I hear how things ought to go. I don't mean I hear things, but like I think of things as I'm learning this, and so this is kind of a sad chord, right? These are very sad chord sequences. I'll go in and I'll more or less clean it up. Do I want it cleaned up? And I think I don't want it cleaned up, because when I say I want to clean it up, usually it means to make the notes the same length and whatnot. Wait a second, my hair thing just fell. Let me find it. Okay. Alright. Let's go. Now. Alright. Okay, so I hear, for some reason, I feel like I want lines that are like, you know, maybe like the James Horner in me or something. It's like, oh yes, the James Horner in me wants, you know, something that sounds like it's basically, you know, music for movies. Okay. And you hear that more and more in pop music, meaning they'll have a beat, but then they'll have like an introduction, which is entirely, you know, like, oh, that sounds like it could be from a movie. And that's just because of the fact that most music tracks have a video attached to it in production, okay? And those are the ones that get the most, you know, it gets the most show, it gets the most listens, because people like the experience of having something visual along with, it's like a visual plot, a visual storyline, a plot with the music. So then it's kind of like a short story, a short movie, but the movie isn't necessarily the key story, it's the music that tells most of the story. It's like the music plays center stage, the music does that, but the video is the background, but it's also essential, and it doesn't have to make entire sense, but and it doesn't have to be as clean as, you know, a movie production, but it's got to be decent, you know, and that's what I'm thinking. And a lot of times I'm just like think, oh, you know what, a catchy intro, okay, is absolutely necessary. And then you have to write some sort of catchy bass line, okay, and rhythm. So you want the catchy intro that has some sort of highlights with a chord progression that is epic. So this is a standard chord progression. So it's a standard chord progression used in typically scary movies, ghost movies, sad, just mysteries that are like kind of tragic, you know? Or it depends on what kind of instruments you put it on. But I like just to flip it entirely. So I'll play something like this in the beginning, but then I will just progress it like. And then I'll lead into. Something like that, okay? And so, you know, it's very, very departed from like the melodies of, let's say, Puccini or Bellini, right? They're the true masters of, you know, melody. But today, you know, people will go for that, but also they're just listening to things as a kind of a part of the environment. And so those things are too distracting to listen to, because if you hear something like this, you're just, you know, a little bit depressed. It's like, oh, you know what, something bad's gonna happen. Is it ominous, or is it just sad? You know, is this just, so when you listen to this chord progression, we can say, does this make you feel ominous, or just sad? I got to. Da, 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 is what you want, okay? Okay, listen, okay? so I'm gonna quantize this and see what it sounds like. I'm gonna take the tempo up a little bit. Ah, here. This is the scale. I'm gonna take this down. I'm gonna create a new track, and I'm gonna put in I'm just laying out the skeleton. Okay. So here we have. So, I have a really weird and bizarre like texture on the bass here, which I'm gonna make it louder and you'll see what it sounds like. Okay, so here's where I'm laying this out in the beginning. Okay, I'm gonna lay out one more line. So we have this really eerie line here. Okay, here's a really eerie line, but where does it take it? Where do we go from here? Okay, so where do we go? Okay, I'm going to take this really fast just so you can hear it. We'll take this. We're going to modulate into a major somehow in something that's similar to the scale that I wrote. So, okay, so I usually lay my tracks, but here we got to listen to just the texture of this and say, where does it go? I wanted so the key is here. Where do we want to take this? Right. Where do we want to take this? Go back to the scale that I had written. Okay. I'm going to go back to the scale that I had written. I had. Because this literally, I'm going to put this in here. Okay. Take this back down to that 104. G there. Okay, so here is what I have kind of. I could. Okay, I could just change it there. Okay, to put it in scale. Okay, so here. Do I want, so the bass continuo, what do I want, okay? What do I want as the bass continuo? Obviously, I was completely, I just mismatched my, misaligned my chords. It just felt like it shouldn't be in that particular rhythm, and I'm going to fix that right now. So then it sounds like this. It sounds like something's wrong here. What did I just do? I don't know. Okay, so here's what it sounds like. I'm gonna take the tempo up a little bit. So then I'm just like, okay, I didn't like that. Yeah, I don't like that. We'll take that out because I think I'm gonna use some other rhythm. So bum 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 bum. Okay, so quantize. Let's see what it sounds like. Okay. So a little bit mischievous. So here's the mischievous section, right? So we got a mischievous section, we got the ominous section, and we say, okay, how are we going to merge those two? You just heard it. I heard it. I just put a line, right, that led into the next section, and so I kind of like the ba-da-ba. Okay, so let's see, I'm quantizing this and I'm going to listen to it again. And here. Alright. Let's see what it sounds like. So we've connected the introduction into this kind of wailing section. And I just see dolls. I see dolls now. And it's very creepy. Okay. Here. I need some sort of connector. I think I need more space, maybe emotions here. Oops, I need countdown and much noise. Exactly what I had in my mind, but I feel like this was more lateral, meaning what I had was like more twisted, and I don't think we needed what I had in my head, and I think this is actually a little bit more appropriate. So what did I have in my head, you ask? Okay, I'll show you what I had in my head. What I thought was this. Okay, we're not. What I had was this. Is what I had. And maybe I should do it first. And then I'll put this. That's also not what I had. Okay, I'll tell you what I had. A flat. Okay, added the F. Somebody added the F. Somebody, a ghost added the F. So hold on one second. So you see the different variations of something that could be a thought, right? And you know, it comes to this where it's like, okay, well, what do you want then, right? It's what do you want? Okay, here, so you have this. Da 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 da. So I think, okay, hold on a second. Okay, I think what I wanted was this. What I wrote first, yeah, add it in. Ooh, not good. I just did something weird. Undo cut, edit, undo drag. No. Okay, so I think what I wanted to do was to move this line earlier. Okay, so we have this ending. So what I'm reordering now, and the way I'm reordering my different versions is to have like the most concerted, most compact, the least like. It depends. We'll listen to this. That's so convoluted. I don't like that because it's so non-standard. That's your standard. And it's making me very uncomfortable to deviate from whatever I hear in my head. So, because it does, I have to just do what I just did. Okay? Because otherwise I would just die. Okay, I just screwed up something here. Obviously, now here, you know. Oh god, it's very Puccini. This chord progression sounds very Puccini. Oh, I hear it. Don't go down is what I'm hearing. Okay, watch. Okay, because here, if you go back to the octave above, instead of going downwards, it actually sounds like more like a precedent. Ah. And then there you go. So from a expectations perspective, it just sounds a little better. And then you can go here. Because now you have a different, you know. I'll tell you what, Tim. whenever I have an idea for Logic, I go, I tell you what, Tim. But to be honest, like in Logic, what you cannot do is to drag a section into a place and just have it create new space. And I wish that were the case. Like, you should have a mode. Like, here's my wish list, okay? There's a creative mode versus a finished composing mode. So if you had two modes where the creative mode, you could just grab and drop things and it just opens up and creates new space there, it would be so nice. If you had a whole entire, if you had chunks, right? Here's chunk, here's a chunk, right? And there was something here's 8 measures, here is 8 measures, and there was, no space in between. I wish you could just drag another 8 measures and just prop it in, So it would be so nice to have some sort of editing mode or hyper editing mode or creation mode where you're just, a splash board. Just that you're just brainstorming, like a brainstorming board where you could just more easily drop pieces and it just creates the space as you create things, right? So then you could just easily move pieces, so it would be more modular. You could have a mode where it would be the modular mode where everything goes in chunks of 8 and then you could just drag and drop and it would push those two pieces apart and just create a space, and then so you would have 3 instead of 2. It would be so nice. But right now I have to do it manually, and I'm not doing this manually very well. Every time I don't know what it is. I'm very bad at this. Extremely bad at this. It's very bad. I'm just very bad at just keeping things in order. Okay, so now I have this right here. And if I don't save this, I'm going to be very sad. So I'm going to save it. Okay. Okay, so let's see. So did I quantize this? of on the same wavelength, but they're like conversing about different things. So I'm going to save that one for later. So I'm going to use the other part for later. Let's see. I'm going to make sure that they're in 8 measure bars. I wish there were such. I'm sure there is, and I'm just, no, there isn't. Okay, so I'm just like, I wish there were like, you know, markings of 8 measures. There are markings of 8 measures. I was like, wait a second, there are markings of 8 measures, there are markings of 4 measures. Yeah, well, then I guess I'm an idiot. So. Maybe that. Maybe we'll have let's see. Oh wait, let's put this back on to like, you know, where's my scale? There it is. Yep. So I'm using my scale now. Okay. So I've basically set this up so that I can use my scale. Because the scale is still fundamentally rooted on a C. It's just 7th chord, a dominant 7th chord, added 4th. And then to add E flat. I think this might be. No, I don't want to add that all the time. See, here the thing is like. It matters what chord you use of it. Because this is, so it doesn't have a D. You're missing a D. So you need to make a mental note of, okay, well, what is it expecting and what is it skipping? And you're saying, okay, you know what? It's skipping a D. So how do we make this work in another section? Like, oh, I missed that D. Because you want to hear even, right? You want to hear the D. So really, what you're missing is the D. And so I'm going to put that in there just see. Okay, so, and then, or. Now I'm just being chaos. What? You know, this is actually more palatable. Every time I do this, I say, you know what? That's not what I wrote. Okay. It's not what I wrote, and I just need to stop. Okay, here, let's just try to go slower. I don't know where that came from. But it's beautiful, isn't it? It's beautiful, isn't it? I got off the rhythm. I got off the rhythm and I screwed up here. So I got off the rhythm. What did I do here? I did something weird here and it got off and I knew it went off track, but I got back on track. the track. Oh, here it is. There are 16 notes in here. Oh, here it is. Okay, screw this off. Okay, this is how I work, which is entirely, entirely unacceptably chaotically. Here. Trying to figure out where I went off beat and fixing it. So far, so good. I don't like that either. I want to C, I think here. So instead of, it's more authentic. It feels more genuine. Okay, let's see. Still not off track. I don't want it to be over yet, so here. Instead of but which sounds conclusive, right? It's a cadence that's conclusive. You want this cadence that leads on. Or the G is dead. Something of that sort, okay, and then here. Okay, so we cut this because, okay, so I'll come up with this stuff. Sometimes it'll just come to me and I'm just like, okay, that's a pretty nice melody, I will keep it, right? And then I will just keep it, and the next one, we'll see where it went. So I thought it went off beat. For whatever reason, I thought it went off track and it didn't, which is really weird. It's just really bizarre. Here's the meat of this chorus part. Second melody, yeah. Was it here? No. It's still in sync. For some reason, I thought it was not. I really need that in there. It's like, wait a second, I hear something. I really need to put that in there. Here. Oh, wait. Let's see. just want to, here, hold on a second. There we go. Here, so this is a whole entire different freaking track. Okay, so I'm gonna save this track, and I'm gonna save another track. Okay, I better save this as a V0. Okay, so, okay, I'm gonna delete this. What I deleted by accident, it would be very bad. Okay, so open resend. So this one's saved, and I'll close this one. I'll be very sad if I lost that. Okay. Okay, so we go back to the non-destructive thing, which is okay, so non-destructive thing. How am I going to piece this together? Okay. Should I modulate it so that it's in a different key? It's a question, right? And a question. I can literally lay out a major chord. I could go. And it would sound actually okay. So listen to this, okay? Okay, we're just gonna play over it. It doesn't contradict the weird modal stuff that I have. So the thing about modalities is that certain modalities are conducive to being put together with either major or minor, depending. For some reason, I just feel like that snippet needs to be. Oh, because of the D, the missing D in the chord. What do you think of that? If I tried to line this up with this, would it work is the question, right? So I've just basically filled it in with the missing note from the original scale. What was I doing? Was that what I... No, it was not. Here, what was I using before? It's... So whatever scale that I just, decided that I was going to use is missing a D. And so what happens if you create two scales, okay, and hollow them out essentially? So you don't even need a full scale. You just need a snippet that fills in whatever seems to be missing to the ear. Meaning, we think, here's a G major scale, right? So we expect to hear those notes in the scale. Whereas if you say, it's very evidently missing the. So if you go, if you're using the specific keys that are the ears of traditional scaling, major scaling, are missing, then you would somehow, create a dichotomy that is somehow different. Meaning it's a different way of writing. You're saying, okay, you know what? I'm going to just create a structure. The structure is very obviously missing something, right? And I'm going to just kind of really play with it and really develop it so that the ear really misses whatever's missing, and then to bring it in for a release, right? Kind of like that. The concept is always the same, which is why do some, and then, but why does that resolve, right? Why does this resolve? It's the way that we feel about it. I mean, you could go academic and all that, but at the end of the day, it's, do you like what you hear? Do they like what you're writing? It's about how you feel. It's about how it strikes your eardrums and how it goes into your head, right? So then, I guess I'm kind of over that lump a little bit. But at the same time, I've only just splashboarded. This is just brainstorming in a way. So this is how I do it. And I ought to just take a break for a bit. And so I've been fairly productive this morning because in less than 75 minutes, I've just basically said, oh, you know what? I figured out a new thing that I want to kind of direct myself towards. I'm directing myself towards this goal, which is now to create contrasts. Okay, so I mean, that's a very broad thing, because generally speaking, that's nearly not something that's useful to say, but I've more specifically come up with the idea that I ought to create some sort of scaling system where I'm really missing certain notes and to really just play with that and just to really create a gaping hole. It's like love unrequited, right? It's like you're missing something and you're so missing something, and then you bring it in, right? And so, you could do that with a whole entire album. You could do it with, if you're writing a song cycle, you could do that too, which is to just create this tension of just loss and longing and lacking, and then in the end just bring it in. And they say, oh, here you are, Or it could be like you're really, really, really pissed off at somebody and you really want to strangle them, and then in the end you strangle them. It's like, whatever it is, whatever floats your boat. It's, it's if you really want something, or if you really hate something, okay? Either way, and you have to think about composition as a mode of just intriguing people's feelings, right? How do you play with people's feelings? How do you make people feel certain ways? How do you really get to their head? How do you manipulate people? No, but it's harmless in a way. Certain things aren't harmless because I think people are really affected. Some people are very, very, very affected by music, and there have been people who have been just pushed over the edge by music. And so, you know, we have to be somewhat careful of what we do. However, if you think about this, it's, if you create some sort of structure that is similar to creating a scale, like a customized scale for your piece, okay, the next step is, well, how do we work with it to maximize that? Because it isn't just creating a scale and writing with it, or even just choosing a hybrid scale that exists. Obviously, nobody's really inventing anything, because we have like a chromatic scale, we have all sorts of different scales. It's not necessarily true that you're like inventing anything new, but you're using it as a novel structure. Okay, the novelty is in the structure and the process of how you're composing. And so you're saying, okay, you know what? This is the scaling that I'm going to use. It's going to really miss something. Okay, and how do I sneak it in? How do I just tease? Right? How do I eventually give in? Right? It's those types of things. And I think that's useful, because sometimes when I speak on video through things, when I talk to myself through things, I get somewhere. Usually if I just sit there going, oh, you know what, I'm very troubled. And I've been sitting there for months going, oh, I'm very troubled. I don't know where else to go with this. And even though, like, you know, I didn't come up with anything new today in terms of how I compose, this is just stuff I do. Like, nothing here is anything I would say, oh, that's impressive. It's not. Okay? This is all fairly, like, standard stuff. Okay? But sometimes it's like, you know what? There are so many numbers, but why do people win millions of dollars from the lottery? There are only so many numbers, right? And so it's not so much, you know, that you have to create a new number to gain anything. Okay? You don't have to create a new number system. You don't have to do anything of that sort. You just have to know how to, you know, create a new structure, because the possibilities are so infinite. I mean, they're not infinite. Okay? The possibilities are obviously not infinite, but with the possibilities of rhythm, with the possibilities of using textures, layers, sounds, it makes the compositional, you know, process very dynamic. Okay? It's, you have so many variables such that, you know, you really have something similar to infinite creation. Okay? So if you can create infinitely, then it would be like a creator being able to create like infinite numbers of universes, or so many in so many different places that they're just omnipotent. Okay? But the you know, creation of music is kind of like that. But at the same time, it isn't just about creating worlds. It's about, you know, making sense of it. It's like, oh, well, you know what? We just created a world. That one sucks. Okay? That world that we created just really, really sucks. Whereas, like, you know, you can create composition that really sucks. You can be a creator who is the worst, which is like, you can be, you know, a composer which is the worst. Okay? And nobody cares about what you do. And, you know, and that goes to the end of, well, here's your audience. Why is it that one audience loves your stuff and the others just don't care? Is it, you know, really the human biology, the human physiology of the brain? What is it, right? And you have to think about that. And really, at the end of the day, it's, do you care even? Do you even care what others think of what you do? And the answer for me is, you know, obviously, I can write stuff that sounds pretty good. But at the same time, I'm just like, you know what, if you just make stuff that sounds pretty good, you get very bored, right? And you get bored with yourself. And you're like, you know what? I cannot stand listening to the stuff that I've done, which is sounding exactly what I've done. You know, and so every time I'm writing, I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to be doing the same thing. Which is also the reason why I ruined my vocal cords. It's like, oh, I don't want to be doing the same thing. I don't want to just sing Puccini. I want to sing, like, you know, Mozart in the dynamic range as well. And it's just like, you know what, that is not something people do because physiologically it's very dangerous. And so, you know, with composition, you don't run into those types of dangers, whereas with sports or with, you know, vocal training, which is kind of like sports, it's very dangerous. Meaning you cannot expect to be a gymnast while you expect to run a marathon. Okay. You cannot be a long distance runner and be a gymnast in the same extreme. Meaning you cannot really push yourself. You could be like, you know, okay, we'll dabble, but not in the extremes. And singing, you know, full throated at the 6th octave is absolutely at the top of anybody's game, right? And not to say like, oh yeah, you know, just because you can sing the high notes, it's fantastic. It's not that, right? It's about sustaining vocal health when you do that. And it's just when you're too distracted and when you really just, when your passion is really in the creation, it's, you know, you get bored with, you know, just sticking with like a very rigid, regimented kind of, you know, structured program, which is what opera singers do. They're very disciplined, they're very boxed in, and if you don't have a box, there's no point. You know, if you don't have a box that you really love, then it's going to be miserable. And you have to have, you know, a box that you really love. And it's like, well, which box do I really love? And it's, I couldn't say I would be able to be committed to like seeing Puccini even, you know. I would just want to dabble in, you know, Mozart and not just like the smaller pieces. I want to sing the F6s. I want to sing the F, you know, I want to sing the G6s, the F6s. I just, you know, it's not okay, right, for you physically, physiologically, to expect that, because we're a human body and there's only so much you can do. Whereas, you know, with compositions, it's far safer. Like, I feel like, oh, you know what? I think I have a better perspective. I'm kind of like in a better place mentally right now to compose, because I really needed to get over that, like, lull where I feel like I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. And so I'm gonna take a break, have some breakfast, and then come back and see what I can do with this miserable like snippet, because I'm not huge on it, but usually the stuff that I really like, I'm not huge on. Okay, there's, in my memory, it's very rare that I get, you know, beautiful melodies that are, you know, just, I just really just, that makes me feel like, oh, this is so pretty, you know. It's very rare that I get that. So then I find myself just, you know, using sudden epiphanies to tie together a piece. And it always happens. But it takes time.